Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jack. Back again to bring you Grievous in Mythic Plus, how best to solve it, how best to deal with it. All the footage, of course, is going to be from this week, which is Sanguine, Grievous, and Fortified. I've got Holy and Discipline perspectives that you're going to be seeing on your screen now. And this is a terrifying affix if you're a healer, but for everyone else, this is, a dream week. This is a week that everyone really wants to be pushing high keys, and I've had tons and tons of opportunities this week to be pushing high keys, and I have some great footage to show you guys right now. But it's also something that you really have to keep in mind that to most everybody else, it's just kind of like there's two affixes, The tanks, the DPS, they really have the idea of like, oh yeah, there's only two that we really have to worry about. It's Sanguine and Fortified, right? Whereas all the Grievous pressure is really, really put on the healers here because your DPS and sometimes your tanks are really loath to just stop and eat food and stop and top themselves off with a little heal here and there to help bring out their Grievous stacks and help remove their Grievous stacks. So a lot of pressure is going to be put on you, the healer, this week, topping them off. And I wanted to kind of share, some of my perspective on what's made my life a hell of a lot easier getting Grievous done. Gearing wise, the idea that you want to be getting behind here is much like most Mythic Pluses, getting your casts off faster and usually for higher lump sums, basically. So, prioritizing item level, haste gear is amazing for both Holy and Discipline specs, to be able to get all of your heals faster, get people topped off, get the healing there when you need it, right? For Holy Priest especially, I really lean on Apotheosis. And the big thing to kind of take away here is that just in general, whether, even if you don't even play a Priest, the biggest thing in Mythic Plus that I see people really struggle on is that they don't use their cooldowns enough. They don't use them aggressively enough. They kind of just hold on to them, maybe for a boss fight, maybe for this, and oftentimes they just sit on them for way too long. For me, as a Holy Priest, or even if I'm playing Discipline, I'm constantly using Apotheosis, I'm constantly using Barrier, Rapture, Pain Suppression, Guardian Spirit, like all of my cooldowns that I can, in order to really get the most value out of them, right? You see so many times where people will come close to death, and they might be on this kind of borderline situation, and for me, that's just a sign that I say, I'm not going to take any chances. I'm going to use any kind of cooldowns that I have in my toolkit here, get people topped off. Okay, it's a trash pack and I'm going to divine him here, right? That's okay, because you're making sure people are staying topped off. If you're making sure you're pain suppressioning, yourself, if you're taking tons and tons of damage by having some kind of dot damage added on to Grievous that you need to be getting rid of, right? You need to be able to fight back against that. Well, it's way better to be using these cooldowns than just sitting on them waiting for some kind of perfect moment, right? So be aggressive with your cooldowns. Take advantage of all the resources that you have at your disposal. I've had an opportunity. I'm working on 3K Mythic Plus score on my Paladin as we speak. I've been very aggressive with my Blessing and Protections, Blessing and Sacrifices, all kinds of stuff like that. And very aggressive with Wings and Holy Avenger to make sure that you're getting everyone topped off as quick as you can when you enter those dangerous situations. Now, for most trash packs, for most, more normal scenarios, you generally are just going to be focusing on getting rid of the Grievous stacks as soon as you see them. A lot of times what you'll see is you'll go into a trash pack, you'll engage with it, you'll be able to pump out quite a bit of damage, and a little bit of damage will start, and then the big spikes will start. So it depends on, what kind of trash packs that you have, what kind of damage you'll really be seeing. A lot of times there's going to be, jumping, leaping mobs like the cats in Dark Arc Thicket or something along those lines, which would be very, very scary to deal with. And that's where you'll be keeping in mind that, oh, I have to be healing the ranged and the melee and stuff like that, and watching who's going to be taking damage. Other instances are going to be focused a lot more on melee damage and tank damage. So when you see those Grievous stacks starting on players that you know to be vulnerable, don't be afraid of topping them off immediately. In fact, you should be topping them off as fast as you can because you do not want them to drop low while Grievous stacks are increasing, and then they're just dying from Grievous stacks because, they entered low HP range of like 20% with 4 stacks rather than entering it with 1 or 2 stacks because of that big hit that they just took, right? Getting people topped off before big damage happens, before big spikes happens, are going to keep you as a healer in a more comfortable scenario, right? The dangerous scenarios and the terrifying scenarios really that you'll have in Mythic Plus often involve having heavy damage going out on multiple targets. A lot of times during boss fights, especially extended boss fights, where you really have to be keeping multiple people alive. Keeping in mind there's a shortage of battle reses, there's no runbacks or things like that on a boss fight, and you have to make sure you're able to sustain everybody, lock their healths in, and then start pushing people's health pools up one by one. Oftentimes, most all healers really, it's extremely difficult to push up three or four players' HP pools when they have 3 to 5 stacks of Grievous on them. It's a lot easier, however, to keep everyone at the level that they're at, heal the damage that is getting put out by Grievous, and nothing more, and not healing up their health pools, but then focusing one person at a time. Getting that person topped off, then getting this person topped off, then getting this person topped off. Each spec has their own unique tools, but the biggest thing to take away from it is being aggressive with these tools. You start seeing a situation which is going to say, oh, I know there's going to be lots of damage here. I know there's going to be tons of damage going out. Let me make sure I'm using my cooldowns now, rather than for some period I don't even know about, right? When you see it, you should know, okay, this is instantly where I need to be popping cooldowns. This is instantly where I need to get people topped off before things get bad. Trinkets like the Archive of Faith are really, really strong in a week like this. They're a lot safer of trinkets, so that's the big takeaway is, you know, I have sets going for more damage-oriented builds. I have sets going for more safe-oriented builds, you know, so those are different ways you can kind of switch around your trinkets, switch around legendaries, things like that, depending on the trash packs you're going after. If I know these mobs are not going to be hitting me or not going to be hitting anybody else but the tank, then I'm going to go for a set that's going to orient myself towards damage. If I'm playing Disc Priest, for example, I'm going to run Moose's Wrists, which decrease the cast time of Smite, and then I'm going to run the Belt, which allows me to reset the cooldown of Penance off my Smites, right? So it's very damage-oriented. But if I know that there's going to be a lot of damage happening on myself and others, then I'm going to take maybe the Soul Priest ring, so I have Twist of Fate, and I'm going to take Pride Ass, so I have my own protection here, right? So there's a different, you know, perspective on legendaries there, where you're saying, I have my own personal protection, and I have my own personal damage increases. And having a separation there is totally fine. And oftentimes you will be switching up gear quite a bit. So having something like the Archive of Faith to mix in on certain fights, or certain trash pulls even, is amazing, because it's basically just every 1 minute, you have a one-button top-off on somebody. They're taking tons of damage, channel Archive of Faith into them, get the full cast off, they should be clear to Grievous almost every single time, depending on how much damage they're taking. You know, taking advantage of those trinkets, Deceiver's Grand Design is a good trinket, but it's not necessarily strong enough to be topping somebody off on its own. It's a good, like, safety net, but it's not something that's going to be pushing people's health pools up high enough to really allow you to it'll buy you time, is the best way to say it. It's going to buy you time, but it's not going to solve the problem. It's going to solve the symptoms of the problem, which is not something that you really, really want to have as your best item that's bring along, right? In terms of getting your group coordinated with this, a lot of times it'll kind of depend on the instance. It'll kind of depend on each boss fight. But a lot of times, you know, make sure you're drilling your group every single time you get out of trash packs. Have them eating food, getting themselves topped off. That way you're able to get your mana back. I've had so many times where people have already had high stacks and they run away from the healer and expect to not be taking extra ticking damage. And now we're adding more time to our timer here. You know, we're adding an extra 5 seconds here, an extra 5 seconds there. And I've cut a lot of keys close, and I've depleted many keys just to a couple simple deaths there. So making sure, even if it's saying, oh yeah, we're definitely going to be making 2 chests, we're definitely going to make 1 chest, whatever, keep on drilling it in people's heads, because the more that they're going to be learning about it, the more that they're focusing on you yelling at them about it, it's definitely going to be something that's going to be first in their minds. It's going to be first and foremost there. So hope you guys enjoyed some of my quick tips and perspective on Grievous. If you ever want to check out any of our other keys, I'm going to have a bunch of highlights on my stream. If you want to check out the specific Mythic Plus Dungeons. If you want to see me in action live, be sure to check out the live stream, which is linked in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a good one, and I'll catch you all next time.